Welcome to another edition of PEP Talk. I'm your host, Jesse Peppy Park. I've been with the President General of the Universal Negro Improvement Association African Communities League, the Honorable Senghor Baye. Stick with us, we'll be right back. So, Brother Farooq, thank you so much for coming to the show.
To be in these places at the time that. So yeah, I'm in the right place at the right time.
Because hear what happened now. I told you the Jamaican accent was gonna come out. I'd love to be able to name all the bands, and I can. But I know I'm gonna miss.
You've been called selfless, you've been called kind, loving, all kinds of stuff. We know you're passionate about.
Talk about your little 10-month-old son. Yeah. Talk about that, your pride and joy, of course.
I love my son. His name is Jawari, and he was born on Christmas Day.
Wow.
Senghor, welcome.
Hi, I'm glad to be here, Peppy.
And I'm glad to have you too. So, the last time when we started off with PEP Talk, this is very dear to me, I have to talk about it. We opened season 1 with a conversation with Brother Farooq Muhammad, the late. And you were very close to him. Both of you are connected to the unia-ACL. Let's talk briefly about Farooq, because it touches my heart to be talking to you on the same couch that Farooq sat.
Yeah, well, first, Pep, we really miss our brother. However, he's very much with us in spirit. Farooq was a gigantic lion and at the same time a teddy bear. Many of the women, I'm certain, are still going through emotional trauma by him not being with us. But I knew Farooq a long time before he came into UNIA. And I know Farooq's passion and work continues on. He left a gigantic legacy. There's a little Farooq Muhammad now. He has a grandson, a little Farooq Muhammad. So I know truly that Farooq spiritually is very much with us. And that's how I continue to live his legacy, is knowing that Farooq is still with us. There's a lot of other Garveyites who have transitioned before us. But we have to swallow that, and we have to also accept the fact that God knows exactly your time to come in the world and leave. Despite that, we really miss Farooq.
Awesome. I'm glad I got that off my chest. So let's talk about Senghor.
Yes.
You're a Garveyite. You are the 9th successor to the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Yes.
And the 10th President General.
Yes.
Let's go pre all of that.
Well,
what were you doing back in the day before you learned about Marcus Garvey?
Well, that's a good question. You know, in Banneker City, Washington, D.C., which I choose to call it, you know, my mother and father were born in the area. My grandmother was born here. I came up in such a way where I call it hard knocks, sort of like Malcolm X, except I was the youngest in my generation on both sides. So I had a lot of older brothers and sisters and cousins who pulled my coat. Then I had open heart surgery at age 14. So I had brothers and sisters in the street life who watched out for me because they didn't want me to drop dead around them, you know what I mean? So I somewhat was blessed to be moved like Malcolm was moved. And that's how I found Garvey, reading Malcolm X and coming out of the street life and into a more positive way of carrying myself in the hood as such. So I've always seen myself as a race-first person, a self-determination person. And when I found Malcolm and Garvey live very similar in their lives, even though Malcolm left at a young age and Garvey left at 53. And I just gravitated when I read, and I said, hey, I have to emulate the works, words, and deeds of those who came before me. Little did I know I was going to really find the UNIA in 1979.
Okay, and I think it was founded, correct me if I'm wrong, in 1914.
1914 in Jamaica.
In Jamaica, and you founded in 1979.
Correct.
I can't do the math, but that's some years ago. Right. And have you been a member since 1979?
Yes, I joined in December of 1979. I've been an active member since the 1980s. I studied under the Honorable Charles L. James, who sat at the feet of Marcus Garvey. So I really feel that I'm not that far away from that generation because Mr. James was right there with Mr. Garvey, and he lived to be President General, and he definitely was the #1 student, taught the first course of African philosophy. Mr. James took no prisoners, you know, and I studied under him, and I was blessed to learn a lot about Garvey and a lot of our ancestors who went before us through Mr. James and Miss James and a few others.
Okay, so let's talk about your years in the unia-ACL. You joined in 1979. Prior to being President General, have you held or had you held any executive offices?
Yes. I served as district commissioner of, well, first I served as the co-chairman of the Centennial Committee in 1987, which was held in Jamaica, Marcus Garvey's Centennial, not the UNIA Centennial, that's up and coming. Then I was appointed as district commissioner of Maryland, Virginia, and DC, which brought me on to the parent body of the unia-ACL, parent body government. That was in 1989. In 1996, I was elected as third assistant president general. I served several terms with Marcus Garvey Jr., who served as president general for 12 years. So I was really right in there with the bloodline of Garvey, and he's still with us, by the way. Both sons of Marcus Garvey are still with us. Okay, so when you were serving in those capacities, did you ever have a personal aspiration to one day become who you are now, the President General? No, absolutely not. How did that happen then? Absolutely not. When I came into UNIA, I was like a hot-headed revolutionary. I wanted to see the revolution happen right now. And the elders said, okay, son, we're glad you're here. Sit here and learn a little bit. I became a grown man from my 20s up in the UNIA. I learned a whole lot about real revolution, that it just doesn't happen overnight. But the answer to your question is, I was born to be this, obviously, because the ancestors called me up and said one day, you have to follow this legacy of not only Brother Farooq, Honorable Redmond Battle, and Mrs. James and Mr. James always told me a Garveyite has to be ready for whatever comes their way. And I believe that this calling came my way spiritually, and now physically it's in my lap because I am committed to the upliftment of African people, north, south, east, and west of the world, which can happen, maybe not in our lifetime, but certainly it can happen because at one time we were the first and we ruled the world. Awesome. Now I have to ask you this question because a lot of people want to know, how do you personally think the organization has grown since it was founded in 1914 by Marcus Garvey? You joined in 1979, that's what, 65 years later? That's correct. And now we're in 2012. A lot of people want to know why the unia-ACL is not more on the map. Yeah, good point. Actually, what happened when Marcus Garvey was pushed outside of the United States, he only spent 12 years in the United States. And when he returned to Jamaica in 1927, after he was railroaded out of the United States, which is another story, and then later on left Jamaica and went to the UK, the UNIA always continued, but it went into a lull. When we lost our matriarch leader, a lot of brothers and sisters began to leave the UNIA and go into other formations. For an example, and that's not to say all of them, but Rastafari was born the same year as Marcus Garvey. The Nation of Islam was born the same year as Marcus Garvey. Not the radical line of them, but the organizations. So the Ethiopian World Federation, it was a tremendous Father Divine. We could go down the line. A lot of people left the UNIA. The UNIA was able to maintain itself from Garvey to me as President General through Stewart, Sherrill, Harvey, James, Maddox, Battle, and Wally Muji, and now myself. So we stuck around. However, there was a great need of getting mass support again, which was happening in the 20s and 30s, which we have not got back to as of yet. Now there's a rekindled energy because Garvey returned in the whirlwind as he said he would, in spirit, not only in Brother Farooq, but all those Garveyites who came before us have laid a lot of work for us, like Isaiah Mortar, the land and beliefs, and now that's come back to us. So this administration in the 21st century is in the process of rekindling and rebuilding us as a government. Many of our people saw us as an organization. The unia-ACL is a government. It did everything governments do to legitimize itself as a government. As Brother Farooq made it so clear to you, we even have our own citizenship. I was just going to go to that, so that's an excellent segue. So I want to know right now, how many members do you have in the unia-ACL worldwide? I know you have several chapters. Right, well, we don't call numbers simply because when we call numbers like that, that's sort of some of the shortcomings that happen to us when we got millions, and it's frightened a lot of people. However, we have over 35 divisions around the world. We're in Africa, we're in Central America, we're in, of course, like Belize, we're in the Caribbean, we're in Canada, we're in the US, and we have Garveyites all over the world. In fact, we are working to somewhat collaborate with progressive movements all over the world through the Pan-African Diaspora Union. There are many people that are Garveyites. In fact, if you really study Garvey and you're really about self-determination, you're a Garveyite.
Okay.
And we say that everyone is the U and the NIA. Everyone is a unia-ACL member. That is because the organization and movement was established to service black people north, south, east, and west of the world. Now, it's those of us who pay dues to upkeep the movement, and it's those of us who have gone into the leadership and become conscious of now our job to educate all of our African brothers and sisters to the point that the only way we're going to do for ourselves is to do it ourselves. Stop depending on someone else. Marcus Garvey was absolutely clear. If we don't address the issue of up you mighty race and accomplish what we will, it won't never happen.
Okay, so tell me 3 things that you would like to see implemented in the unia-ACL or just as an empowerment tool to black people under your administration?
Well, right now we just started appointing ambassadors. We have 15 ambassadors. I won't go into naming them all, but those ambassadors are workers. That's one of the structural things we're doing. Secondly, we're merging with people who have land. We are focusing on sustainable development. Solar energy, the sun, nobody can control that. We can't keep blaming the oppressor for what we don't do. We have to grow our own food. So these are the things: food, growing our own food, addressing the saving of the earth. Because a lot of times we always talk about saving ourselves. If the planet and the earth is not saved, nobody on the earth will be saved. So it's very important that we start doing some of the things important to save the planet and at the same token saving ourselves, which ultimately will save all of humanity. Another error a lot of people make: the UNIA is not opposed to anyone. We are pro-us. And we know we're the first. And we know when we get our thing together, we can pull everybody else along. But we're taking care of self first.
Awesome. And then you spoke about something that Farooq and I spoke about on season 1 when he spoke about the UNIA moving to dual citizenship.
Yes.
How is that going?
That's a very good question. And I try to explain to everybody that your citizenship was given to you when you came into the world by the Most High. That's very important because a lot of times we get caught up in this man-made law business. But universal law comes before any law. And if you understand law, laws have to be predicated upon laws that come before some other law, right? So universal law, when we say black law, is very important. So your citizenship was given to you from birth of the earth. Now, what happened when we became enslaved and we were taken out of Africa, because we weren't slaves, we were taken captive and we were enslaved. We never gave away, no one never took away our citizenship in Africa, correct? So when you came to America, you got citizenship by someone giving it to you. Now the question becomes is the UNIA has its own citizenship. You become a dual citizen because we advocate to people, never give up your citizenship regardless of whether it's American, Nigerian, Jamaican, keep it. You have rights. Human rights must be addressed. So you become a dual citizen when you become a citizen of the UNIA if you have citizenship anywhere else. Also, the dual citizenship issue on the continent of Africa is very important. Nigerians have a serious problem getting visas to travel to Ghana and vice versa. Africa is our continent. It's a continent, it's not a country. It's a continent of countries. So all those countries need to be able to work together more. That citizenship piece is very important. We are in negotiation stages with other various different governments to negotiate your right to return as an expatriate. That's very important because a lot of times everybody around the world is dealing with that, but we as Africans tend to forget we are expatriates first, meaning we never gave up our right to give up citizenship home, and if you want your right to return, you should be able to reclaim it.
Okay, awesome. Now I'm going to ask you a couple more questions about the unia-ACL. If someone is listening or watching and they'd like to become a member of the unia-ACL, what is that process like?
Right, very simple process. The UNIA is, all you need to do is to contact us, go into our website at www.unia-acl.org. unia-ACL.org. Send us an email. Membership is very economically feasible in this day and time. I won't call the numbers, but I will say that everyone is a member, as I said earlier. Those who pay their dues are those who are contributing to the upkeep of the government, helping us provide an economic means so that we can carry out the day-to-day business of the UNIA. We need membership now is because no matter whether you have great ideas or not, you have no power or numbers to put behind it. You can't put power up against power. And we say that's very important because if you are righteous and if you are moving in the right direction and doing good things, you got to put power behind that because those others who have power are never going to respect anyone else unless they have power to meet power to power.
Okay, and then why should anyone become a member? What kinds of activities or projects are the UNIA involved in so that someone who is watching would be attracted to this organization?
Well, right now with the fall of the economy, and if you don't start hooking up and doing something for yourself, you could have a lot of those bricks that we talk about falling down fall on you. The UNIA is a self-reliant vehicle, not only to provide food, clothing, and shelter for the individual, but for the future. So we encourage people to join us. There is no other way but to become more self-reliant and self-determined. And that's extremely important because if you look around you, you'll find that if you're depending on someone else, you're missing out on the right kind of food. That's a lot of foolishness going on with food these days, meaning you got all kinds of mixtures of foods. So it's very important to hook up with someone who's going to make sure that they deal with organic food, for example, building housing that's sustainable, dealing with energy. That's where the UNI is going. So if you really want to be around and you want something positive for your children, come home to the UNIA.
Okay, that's great. And that's about the UNIA, but I know that apart from the UNIA, Senghor Baye is an independent person. So I know that you're involved in a few things, some with your queen, Kathy, and I know you recently formed Baye Services.
Yes.
What do you offer, especially the stuff that teach people how to be self-reliant?
Well, Baye Services is working, and Baye, by the way, Baye means straightforward. We're working to collaborate and to help others collaborate more, nonprofits with profit-making entities. And it just so happens my tender love, who you'll be speaking with soon, I have to call it like it is. That's my tender love. You know, she's great at what she does professionally. She happens to be the ambassador of health and wellness of the US of A, and she is working on a program called Arts for Our Children. Baye Services is going to do everything it can to help market that and market other things that are positive in our community. So I'm just happy to say that I'm dealing with Arts for Our Children and working with them and youth this summer. That's how I got in the movement. I started out as a youth advocate, and I didn't know that Kathy and I were going to connect up today in 2012 and blend our commitment to serve our community. That's what we're doing.
Awesome. So Senghor, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. Of course, we're going to be wrapping with your tender love and my very good friend, Kathy English Holt. But just before you go again, can you give them the information again for the unia-ACL? Yes, you can go to the www.unia-ACL.org, or of course you can call Baye Services at 202-256-2518. Awesome, and thank you for watching Pep Talk. We'll see you again on another show. Until then, keep it locked. Take care.
Everything's 3D. 2020 my vision, so call it hindsight. I took the red pill, I'm supposed to have Trinity, right? I got 3 eyes open just in case she passed by. I got my alibi ready in case she asks why. She never seen me before and where I be hanging at. Well, I be here and there, be doing this and that. I like to keep it black, carbonated, melanized. Let our minds caress, then let our nature rise. I recognize the real, I know you do the same. From the past life, way before King James. You and I overlooking the Nile, providing food for the fam while you carry our child. But the bond's been severed, and although we can fix
it's time, brothers and sisters, that we become more self-reliant. What has happened in Haiti, what happened with Katrina, these are situations that once we rise up to our traditional greatness, we can not necessarily only avoid, but we can also address the issue of our brothers and sisters when they need our help. And we will not have to be so dependent upon others to do for us what we must do for ourselves.
you never really tell she's oppressed. Come on. It's lonely being awake, and if you are awake, it's hard to find in the mate. Naturally,